Hello and welcome to Westferry Times. I'm Emily. Today we're doing a deep dive into something small but incredibly important, the bumblebee. You've probably seen the worrying headlines about their numbers falling here in the UK. Our aim today is to really get under the surface of that, understand what it means for, well, everything, our environment, our food, biodiversity, and guiding us through this, I'm really pleased to have Dr. Tom Havers with us. He's an ecologist, a bumblebee specialist with, wow, over 20 years of research in the field right here in the UK.
Thanks for having me on. And hello to everyone watching Westferry Times. It's definitely a concerning picture, the decline, but I'm actually really glad we're talking about it, digging into why these little guys matter so much.
Okay, great. Let's start right there then. For anyone listening who might think, bumblebees, why all the fuss? What's the essential message?
Well, fundamentally, bumblebees are just brilliant pollinators.
Yeah.
They're doing that absolutely vital job of moving pollen, which lets plants reproduce. Think about, common foods, apples, tomatoes, raspberries, beans. Bumblebees are key players. And it's not just crops. They pollinate so many of our wildflowers too, clover, foxgloves, the things that make up our natural landscapes.
Right.
So if they disappear, well, you're looking at lower crop yields, potentially much lower, and massive disruption in our ecosystems. Maybe even collapse in some cases.
So it's far more than just missing their buzzing sound in the garden.
Exactly. And there's a really important UK angle here. Unlike honeybees, which are often managed, sometimes brought in, bumblebees are native, they've evolved alongside our climate, our plants, for thousands of years.
Ah, okay.
Which means they're uniquely adapted. They can cope with our cooler, wetter weather. They'll be out foraging when honeybees might be tucked up in the hive. Plus, their fuzzy bodies and the way they buzz, it's called buzz pollination, makes them super efficient for certain flowers. It's this deep, co-evolved relationship.
That native connection makes their decline feel even more alarming then. Can you give us a sense of the scale? What are we actually seeing happen to their populations?
Yeah, sadly, the trend isn't good. We used to have about 24 bumblebee species in the UK. In the last 100 years or so, 2 of those have gone extinct nationally, completely gone from the UK.
Wow. 2 gone.
And several others are now listed as endangered or vulnerable. Their populations are really low, fragmented, and they face a serious risk of disappearing too.
Are there specific species that are really on the brink right now?
Yes, the shrill carder bee is a stark example. It used to be more widespread, but now it's really only found in a few pockets in southern England and Wales. And even there, its populations are tiny, they're shrinking, and we're seeing local extinctions within those areas. It's quite worrying.
And what's causing this? Is it one big thing or a combination?
It's definitely a mix, a complex situation, but the single biggest driver has been habitat loss. Since World War II, we've lost something like over 97% of our wildflower meadows in the UK. That figure is just staggering.
97%.
Yeah. These meadows they're supermarkets, basically, full of diverse food sources, gone. Then you layer on top of that the impact of certain pesticides, particularly neonicotinoids.
Ah, yes, I've heard about those.
Research shows they can really mess with the bumblebee's brain, impairing memory, navigation, making it harder for them to find food or even get back to their nest.
Do they get lost?
Effectively, yes. And then, of course, there's climate change. That's disrupting the timings, when flowers bloom, when bees emerge. It's like a triple whammy hitting them.
You mentioned the shrill carder bee. You've actually spent time searching for them, haven't you?
I have, yes. I remember surveying a site down in Somerset a few years back. Hours, walking transects, scanning the flowers. And in a whole afternoon, we found maybe 3, 4 individuals. Each one felt incredibly precious, tiny survivors.
Just 3 or 4? That really hits home how rare they are.
It does. They have this very distinctive, high-pitched buzz, hence the name shrill. Finding one feels like finding gold dust.
Why is the fate of that specific bee so significant? You hear the phrase canary in the coal mine.
That's exactly what it is. The shrill carder bee has quite specific needs. It likes particular types of grassland. Because it's so sensitive, its decline tells us something much broader about the health of that whole landscape. If it's struggling, it means the conditions are degrading for lots of other wildlife too. It's an indicator species. Its fate is a warning sign for the wider environment.
Right. Let's connect that to agriculture then. Farming shapes so much of our countryside. How have modern practices affected bees?
Massively. Modern intensive agriculture often involves, huge fields growing just one crop monocultures. This means fewer hedgerows, fewer weedy field margins, which were vital habitats and food sources.
So those neat, tidy, massive fields aren't great for bees.
Generally, no. Much less food diversity, fewer places to nest, plus the increased use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides creates a pretty hostile environment for pollinators. It's all geared towards maximizing that one crop, often at the expense of biodiversity.
But I suppose there are farmers trying to do things differently.
Oh, absolutely. And that's important to say. There are agri-environment schemes. These pay farmers to manage land more sympathetically for wildlife. Things like planting wildflower strips at the edges of fields, or using specific bee-friendly crops in rotations. These can make a real positive difference locally.
And what about overall policy in the UK? Is it doing enough to encourage those schemes and protect bees?
Well, there's been progress. And certainly post-Brexit, there's been a lot of talk about shifting subsidies towards paying farmers for public goods, like biodiversity, which is positive. But uptake of the schemes can be patchy. There are always questions about funding levels, about how well things are monitored and enforced. Many conservationists argue we need more ambitious, legally binding targets for nature recovery, not just voluntary schemes. And, crucially, better monitoring to see what's actually working on the ground. Plus, more public awareness driving demand for change.
That links nicely to something else urban areas. You wouldn't immediately think of cities as bee hotspots.
It's surprising, isn't it? But actually, some studies show certain bumblebee species are doing better in towns and cities than in intensively farmed countryside.
Really? Why is that?
Think about it. Gardens, parks, railway embankments, allotments, even window boxes. They can provide a really diverse range of flowers blooming right through the season, from early spring to late autumn. Compared to a huge field of oilseed rape that flowers for a few weeks and then there's nothing, a city can be a more reliable buffet.
Yep.
You've seen this in London, for example.
That's actually quite hopeful. It means individuals can genuinely make a difference in their own spaces.
Absolutely. Individuals can play a huge role. Citizen science is one way helping organizations track bees, logging sightings. It provides vital data.
And in the garden.
Plant bee-friendly flowers. Things like lavender, comfrey, foxgloves, scabious aimed for variety in flowers throughout the season. Definitely avoid pesticides. There are usually non-chemical ways to deal with pests, and maybe leave a corner a bit wild, a bit messy. Long grass, some logs that provides nesting and hibernation spots. Every little helps, genuinely.
Okay, let's touch on climate change again, that other big factor. How exactly is it adding to the pressure on bumblebees?
It's impacting them in several ways. We're seeing some species shifting their range, generally moving northwards as temperatures rise, trying to stay within their preferred climate zone.
Okay.
But perhaps the most critical issue is what scientists call phenological mismatch.
Right, that sounds complicated.
It just means the timing of natural events getting out of sync. So the bees might emerge from hibernation at the usual time, triggered by temperature cues. But if the flowers they rely on for food bloom earlier or later because of changed weather patterns,
Then the bees arrive and the buffet isn't open, or it's already closed.
exactly that. And for bumblebees, with quite a short active season, missing that crucial early or late forage could be devastating for the colony's survival. It shows how interconnected everything is. Climate affects plants, which affects bees.
It does feel quite heavy, all these threats piling up. Are there any brighter spots, success stories we can look to?
Yes, absolutely. We need those. The story of the short-haired bumblebee is a really powerful one. It was declared nationally extinct in the UK back in 2000. Gone.
Right.
But there's a big project involving huge habitat restoration efforts in Kent and Romney Marsh and reintroducing queens carefully sourced from, believe it or not, New Zealand, where they had been introduced years ago.
From New Zealand, wow.
Yes. And now, slowly, carefully, their numbers are starting to build up again in those restored areas. It proves that with dedication and the right habitat work, restoration is possible. It takes time, though. Lots of time and commitment.
That's fantastic to hear. And are there organizations leading the charge on this kind of work?
Definitely. The Bumblebee Conservation Trust does absolutely vital work. Their projects, like Bees for Everyone, focus on creating and connecting habitats, making beelines or corridors across the landscape so populations aren't isolated. And, one really positive thing is the huge increase in public awareness and engagement over the last 10 years or so. People are more aware now, they do care, and they want to help. That public support is crucial.
So boiling it down for our listeners who want to help right now, what are the top practical things they can do today?
Okay, top actions. 1, plant bee-friendly flowers. Think variety, think early spring and late autumn blooms especially. Even a window box helps. 2, ditch the pesticides in your garden or allotment. Just stop using them. 3, Support local organic food producers where their farming methods are often kinder to wildlife. 4, consider supporting or joining groups like the Bumblebee Conservation Trust or your local wildlife trust. And maybe 5, just keep learning, keep talking about it. Awareness is the first step.
Brilliant. Okay, time for our quick fire round. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Favorite bumblebee species?
Ooh, tough one. Red-tailed bumblebee, Bombus lapidarius, just stunning, and a great pollinator.
Most underrated wildflower for bees?
Maybe vetch, common vetch. Looks quite humble, but bees absolutely adore it.
And finally, one word to describe bumblebees.
Indispensable.
Indispensable. I like that. This has been incredibly insightful. Thank you. Any final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Just that, yes, the situation is serious, it's urgent. But it's genuinely not hopeless. Every single positive action, however small it feels, planting those flowers, not spraying it, all adds up. We can all be part of turning things around and making sure these amazing, indispensable creatures have a future. Don't wait.
A powerful message to end on. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and passion with us today.
It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for highlighting the issue.
And that wraps up our deep dive on bumblebees here at Westferry Times. The takeaway is clear. These pollinators are vital, they're struggling, but we can all take action. If you found this useful, please subscribe to Westferry Times and maybe, just maybe, take one action today, plant one bee-friendly plant. It all counts. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.